get people to speak out and listen, because you can learn from everyone. I'm a very big believer in that.
Fantastic. Well, that's a good start. So if everything is okay,
I thought that was being filmed. Serious?
It should have. Robertsons is an independent Hong Kong law firm with a history spanning more than 4 decades. At its helm is managing partner Chris Lambert, who's been with the firm for over 25 years. A 2-time winner of ALB's Managing Partner of the Year award in 2023 and again in 2025. Chris has stood out against competition from some of the biggest names among international and PRC firms. I sat down with Chris to talk about what shapes his approach to leadership, the kind of firm he's building for the future, and how he views competitors and the road ahead for Hong Kong's legal market and Robertsons' place within it. Robertsons is established in 1980, so it has been around for quite some time and it survived decades in Hong Kong. What would you describe as the clearest sign of strength of your firm? What's the secret?
One ingredient above all else, stability. We've been very lucky to have people who've been with us for a very long time. I think a lot of firms, people come in, they try and create something and then they move on to something else. We've been quite lucky at Robertsons. We've created a little more of a family atmosphere, proper business nonetheless. We're serious about what we do, but the stability and a very low turnover rate. So I think that more than anything else has got us where we are.
That's difficult things to do. And in fact, a lot of the firms that we talk to nowadays in Hong Kong are quite having a bit of a headache about retaining young talent, especially in local outlets, because a lot of them, they are talented, they're ambitious, and they achieved what they think they've achieved here, and then they moved on to something better.
We don't have everyone stay with us forever. We've had a lot of key people stay with us for a very long time, and that's the difference. We do lose people. We're okay with that. We're very cool. We stay friends with people. I'm also someone, no one's a prisoner when they come to Robertsons. They're free to move on. But I think people realise there's a little bit of a special atmosphere here. We're not quite like anyone else. We have our own place in the market. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that people have stayed with us for so long.
Every managing partner has at least one defining decision. What would you say is the most single important strategic decision that you've made as managing partner? What made you managing partner of the year not once but twice?
I think more than anything else, COVID defined me. So I'd been already with the firm for about 25 years when I became managing partner in 2019. We had 2 big events almost immediately. There were the protests, and right after that, COVID. So I had a baptism of fire. And I think for the first 3 or 4 years, I was literally putting out fires. There were events happening that there was no business book out there. There was no managing partner with greater experience who'd experienced anything like this. We'd had so many years of stability and good times, and suddenly all these events actually happening. And I think the first 3 or 4 years I was very much putting out fires. And then certainly after that, it was towards the end of COVID, I began to realise a lot of people had become very insular. Work from home, just not wanting to socialise, not interested in anything at all. And it became a very worrying factor for me, particularly amongst the youngsters. And so I started to do something I'd never done before. I'm a keen hiker. I love the Hong Kong countryside. I was a distance runner for many years. And I realised a lot of the youngsters weren't getting out there. So I started a programme very much of getting them all. We do communal hikes during the day, during work hours. We've been kayaking, we've been climbing, but not your usual thing, but something that will get them together. Some rocks where maybe there's some ropes attached where they have to do a little bit of team building, but not your classic team building, something a little bit different. So I use my knowledge of Hong Kong to get them all to come together and do that. And really for me, that was the most defining thing about creating something a little more human, getting people after COVID to come out again and socialise and be part of a team. I can talk about all the business, the money side stuff that I've done, the practice area, but honestly the most satisfying and defining thing for me was getting particularly the youngsters out there and enjoying what we have in Hong Kong. We're very lucky.
What do you think is a more important quality in a leader or in a managing partner, particularly putting out fire, able to make hard decisions when it comes to it, or the ability, the capacity or the wisdom, capital to unite your team?
Probably a bit of an overlap, but for me it's always vision. What is your vision? You shouldn't be stubborn in a vision. A vision has to be something that can change if it's not working. But I always see in what I do, and for me in what I do, the most important thing is it compatible with the vision? If it goes in the opposite direction, we shouldn't be doing it. I don't consider it wisdom. It is calculated in many respects, because does it come within these parameters? But that, more than anything else, I think is the most important thing for managing a business. Not boxes, you must come within that box, not come within that box, that box. But is it appropriate? Does it fit with that greater image which you're trying to seek?
Can you name one thing that Robertsons have stopped doing or started doing simply because the old way of doing things wasn't working anymore?
I think for me the biggest thing is to try and encourage younger people to talk. Younger people to come forward.
Each other,
or talk to each other in meetings with clients, encouraging them to speak as well.
Why weren't they speaking anymore?
I think people do get a feeling of, particularly in places like Hong Kong, that they are inferior, they're there to take notes, they're there to learn and not to lead. Whereas, what I was learning also from clients, they wanted to justify the people in the room. Why should they have 4 people in the room for something that could be fairly confidential to their business? So for me, I think very much the philosophy that we've tried to change is to get these people involved, make them understand that they are important, just as important as someone more senior, and give them confidence to grow. And to be honest, they often have very good ideas. There's an idea there that they want to share, but they haven't maybe have the confidence or feel it's inappropriate to do in the circumstances. So very much for me, when we are going to meetings, whatever, I would like to explain to people why they are there. I don't want a note taker. I can take notes myself.
Or AI can do that for you nowadays.
Even better.
Do you think that's part of the solution that maybe you've been charting for, how to better utilize your junior talents in the age of AI?
Definitely. I mean, they're under so much challenge nowadays, the youngsters in particular. You've got a whole generation now coming through who haven't even started here yet, who are going to have a completely different attitude, where AI does so much for them.
Some would argue that the role of Hong Kong local firms, right, in today's day and age, with so many competitors, have no meaningful business in competition really, but they are fighting simply over the scraps between international firms or more and so PRC firms nowadays. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very competitive market. It's an exciting market as well. I mean, we're very lucky in Hong Kong. Not everyone will agree with me on this, but I actually think we're lucky in Hong Kong that we've got one of the most open legal industries. But yes, the whole legal market has changed substantially. So for a firm like Robertsons, we're constantly, and this comes back to the vision point I was talking about earlier, we're constantly reassessing what is our vision, how do we justify ourselves in the market. The independence is certainly something that we feel very strong about and what marks us out from the crowd. For example, international firms who are not based here do prefer to deal, in my experience, with firms that don't have other affiliations, so they themselves are not creating some form of dealing with a competitor for their own thing. So there are opportunities here, there's still a lot of opportunities, but the marketplace has shrunk for that type of thing.
Look at the Hong Kong market today. To be very frank, do you think we are in a healthy kind of shape or position? Or are firms here, be it local, international, or whatever their origins are simply putting a brave face over a shrinking pie, essentially?
A shrinking pie, or certainly a different pie. Yes, there are sometimes I look at some business models out there and wonder how people are going to do it. And of course, there are people out there who obviously got very deep pockets. Whether they're going to get a return on their investment is another matter. But yes, I do look a lot of business models out there and wonder, how are they actually making it work?
Curious case.
We're not the most expensive firm, but we also don't pay, I don't mind being frank, we don't pay the highest salaries in town. We've always tried to fill a gap between the two, hopefully offer legal excellence, but at the same time with nimble, small teams. So I'm very hands-on, although I'm managing partner, I spend the majority of my time doing client billable work. I take that forward and I expect all partners to be fronting up and doing that. We're not of the size to have a big team do transactions. Often we're against bigger teams. So I think you've got to position yourself. If you go out just generally and just want to be yet another firm like everyone else, I think you're going to find it difficult. You have to find your own niche.
More and more Hong Kong firms nowadays have some sort of tied up with mainland firms or any other foreign outlets. Why isn't that on the card for you?
At the moment, never say never, and I'm a big believer in never closing off anything. It's a very important part of a vision is to be open to everything, to do it. Here and now, our independence still gets us a long way. I think for us, because we've had this culture for so long, taking orders, having someone else direct us, isn't the philosophy of our partners. We enjoy being our own bosses, and we do appreciate, even now, we get work because we are independent. I think inevitably when a tie-in occurs, there is some sort of, there's difference in views. You become a little bit more of an employee. The conflicts are a big issue. And I know from many other tie-ins, they've caused big problems. The culture.
Yeah.
Diluting the culture, I think that would hurt me a lot, to be quite honest. If I have to speak very frankly, diluting the culture that we've built for so long. But as I say never. We've been suited many times in the past by many different firms from different jurisdictions. Never quite got the fit.
But sometimes it's forced out of necessity,
Yes, I mean, as scale, access to certain clients, for example, I can get that completely. That's why I say never, but there isn't that pressing need. And I also think this niche that we're in is quite an interesting niche, and there is still life in the old niche yet.
What do you think is the one hard thing that this industry had to reckon with after the past few years?
Definitely AI. I would say definitely AI. It challenges you from many angles, the progression. I've seen during my working lifetime how lawyers have gone from being an almighty God who can give any form of advice and they're respected by the clients, to clients who become much more sophisticated nowadays, are ready to challenge. For me, the biggest one is client education. So as a comparatively senior lawyer, I'm nowadays regularly challenged by clients who have met with me, they go home, they ask the same questions to ChatGPT. They put the two side by side. And you have to change how you operate. It's not an insult, that's natural. They're getting a second opinion. It may be that their prompts are incorrect or whatever that comes up, but you have to be prepared when giving advice, not only to give advice, but then to have that advice challenged. What I would say, a lot of clients trust AI. a client who you've had a very good meeting with, you've resolved a particular way forward, you meet again and the client's a bit on the back foot. You have to work to rebuild that trust. I've never had to do anything like that before, but it's very common nowadays, and that's sort of putting aside the generational issue. Even for senior lawyers now, we are being scrutinised like never before. And that's an immense challenge. It's a challenge I personally relish, because if you give an opinion, you should be able to stand by your opinion. But it's really coming at you from left field.
Is that a challenge that has a solution yet?
The solution, there is not really a solution out there other than you have to reconsider where are your value-added services coming from as a lawyer. So that never used to be the case. What I'm saying is that the information, the data available to the public nowadays is so high and is only improving the whole time. Put aside hallucinations and things like that. Yes, we know there are issues out there, but essentially it's improving. The language models are going to take to agentic, and it's going to take it all to another level. All lawyers have got to say, okay, it's going up here. How am I going to get up here?
Right.
It's going up here. Okay, how can I get up here? And that's the challenge to a lawyer now. The main problems with ChatGPT and the like at the moment are they don't know the client like I know the client. They don't know the human side. ChatGPT wouldn't, for example, here and now, consider the mental effects of someone who, for example, they've been leading their company through litigation. You see they've lost weight, they're getting more distracted, they're not sleeping. ChatGPT wouldn't say to you, I think you should stop this, I think you should go to mediation now and not take this forward. ChatGPT would not necessarily say to you, for you personally, I don't think this deal works anymore. But that's what we've got. You've got to rely on your experience, your knowledge, observing your clients, understanding their needs, understanding their business. Now that's something that is so important. And again, that's a value added you can bring to the table. If you understand your client's business, where they fit into the bigger picture in what they're doing and where their success comes from, again, that's an area where here and now as a human, you can probably give better tailored advice. Otherwise, you're toast.
Well, looking at your business now, 5 years out, independent survivor, reinvented, or acquisition, merger target, part of a bigger, better thing?
It's a very good question. I think what I've learned from the last 5 years, since 2018, 2019, and you've got to remember before then, as you said, we had like 2 amazing decades. Like everyone thought it was going to last forever. So if you'd asked me that question in 2017, I'd be like, yes, sure. But I think what the last 5-6 years have taught us is having a 5-year plan is impossible. You have to be open for everything. You need a vision. It's healthy to have a vision. A vision gets you out of bed every morning. But saying where we are going to be 5 years out, you can't nail your flag in the ground and say we're going to be there. It's impossible because too many things are happening. We haven't even talked about geopolitics. Anything could happen. I don't think we would do anything too dramatic, personally, because it's not in the culture. And if you've got a culture that works, don't just try and copy someone else and ruin that culture, because you'll kill the business.
What would you say to criticism that fortune favours the bold?
It does. I don't think you should be bold for the sake of being bold. I think if the market's moving that direction, if the world's moving that direction, you follow it. Taking a massive leap of faith, I don't think is the culture of this place. I think people like to come to work at Robertsons. It's a very nice environment. They work hard, but we don't kill them with work. We don't require people to work long overtime hours. I think certain cultures going in a dramatic direction would change, and I keep coming back to the culture word. And I'm very, very conscious we have to keep a certain culture, and whatever we do has to be in line with that culture.